doing the work of really discovering what are your true values, because your values drive you, whether you know it
Or not.
or you don't know it. And sometimes we hold values that we aspire to have and think they're our values.
And they're not.
And
They are
not.
nice to have.
Every day you're being driven by your true values. So do you know what those are, or your principles and your beliefs? You are making decisions based on your value system, whether you know it or not. People high in EI have actually been called assertive. They know where the boundaries are. Part of EI is through the lens of fairness. That's why there is policy and there's process. Having the finesse to express difficult conversations in a manner that does not leave the other person feeling belittled, but points to the work that they're doing. So we're like, let's look at these results. What do you think?
Yeah. Focusing on the facts.
Yes. For example, if I have a team, how do I maintain that mood positively so that then when they come to work, despite every other problems that are coming in, the matatus, the what, everything, they find an environment that they actually want to work.
Yeah.
So as a leader, your mood is infectious.
Hello and welcome to Ripple by Ihrm. We are so excited to have you join us in this conversation. The year 2025, we have wonderful conversations lined up for you with the aim of challenging you, encouraging you, and motivating you to become a better leader. Today, we have a wonderful guest, and I cannot wait to have that conversation because we go way back. We went to school together. We will explain that part as we get there. But if you've missed the conversation and you want to join this conversation as well, follow us on our social media platforms at Ihrm Kenya across all platforms. But before that, let us get an update from Ihrm on the activities that are lined up. All right, we get to the expert corner, and today I am so excited to have Vicki Karoga. The first time I met her, I think I called her Victoria.
Yes.
And she humbly corrected me, no, it's Vicki. So she will tell us whether that's the name on the ID or not. And I must confess, I'm very excited about this conversation because I've known Vicki for a while now. We have interacted on various platforms which we will get to talk about. So thank you for making the time to be here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Who is Vicki Karoga? Of late, you're wearing quite a number of hats. You're doing very well for yourself, I must say. Yeah, from managing a business as an entrepreneur to supporting organizations and people in the human development space. And you just said that you came from a field where you were not required to wear heels.
No.
So marry all that and tell us who is Vicki Karoga.
I think Vicki is an ambitious girl and a believer. I truly believe in the fact that we were born with many things that were in us. And I know Mary says purpose. So my journey has been an interesting one. I started by practicing architecture, graduated, worked as an architect for I think about 15 years. And in that journey of architecture, I encountered a psychometric assessment. And you get intrigued by something. And that put me into a rabbit hole of finding out how are these things made, how are they used. So I spent 2 years just studying psychometric assessments and finally decided if this thing can help me as much as it did, then it must be able to help other people. So that's how Profiles was born. But then running Profiles made me realize the realm of human development, especially supporting organizations in the human capital development, is not just about psychometric assessments. And that's how I got into the realm of emotional intelligence, developing culture through EI assessments, having an arm that is dedicated to training and development, and our latest addition, which is digital learning, which is to support skill-up training in organizations. So it's an area I have found myself very deeply, passionately involved in, and it's been fulfilling for the last, I would say, Profiles turned 10 years.
Wow.
We're also very shocked.
It's a preteen now.
It's a preteen, yes. It turned 10 years. It turns 10 years in March, officially, legally, the stamp. But of course, there was some work done before that. I believe people should have passionate hobbies that they follow, and mine is music. And I say music is kind of the one thing that weaves itself in my life throughout. From when I was
What do you play?
I play the drums in a rock band.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yes.
I said
So,
you're unusual.
and we have 3 albums out actually. So please check us out. We're Murphy's Floor. We have 3 albums out. How did I get into a rock band? A friend of mine told me, let's go to River Road and see me practice. 12 years later,
you're part of a band.
We're still in the same band.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and it was a bunch of professionals, so I guess that's why we never got mainstream, because we had a lot of things to do. And then I think, and then I am I could say a fitness sort of enthusiast, but in the way that I preach that we have to move our bodies for them to really give us the very best, to get the mental strength and agility you need to do all the things in life. So
wow. You would need the strength and agility to live your life.
Yes.
How do you do all those things? How many hours do you have in a day?
Gosh, 24.
All right. How was the transition from architecture, which is a very technical space, into human development? And would you say you have two passions, or you found a new one, or architecture was not your first? What was all that transition?
Okay. I think backstory. I read a book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
And in that book, I was about maybe 28. He talks about 10 years. He talks about 10,000 hours.
Yeah,
expertise. Yes, and I was doing the math in my mind. I'm like, that's like roughly 10 years.
Yeah.
So at that point, it occurred to me that, you know what, by the way, if I'm to live to 70, I have about maybe 5-10 years or 6-10 years that I can be an expert in something. So when architecture it got to a point, like most architects, where you're just doing advisory work and that's where you enjoy it. But when I got into this psychometric field, I mean, it was new, it was novel, it was interesting, it was about people, and I like people stuff. So in fact, if you go to my psychometric, you see that's one area that floats up to the top.
Yeah.
So I realized I had another 10,000 hours that I could develop myself into this space. It's been about 13 years.
Okay.
So the transitions are difficult. And sometimes when you get into something, you think you're going to change almost overnight. It took me about 6-7 years to fully transition from architecture, from when the seed was planted, to now moving and actually saying, this is a space that I want to dedicate the next phase of my life to. And having met people who've done transitions, I realized it takes you not less than 5 years to transition. So if you're thinking of transitioning now into something, that's what you're told, start now. Because there's a whole process in your mind. First, there'll be your mind telling you can't do it. Then there'll be other people like me who are like, how can you leave architecture, Vicky? You studied for 6 years.
To do this thing, we don't even know what it is.
I'd retreat back into my cocoon as like, yes, Vicky, how can you leave architecture?
And you stay one more year.
So there's a lot that goes on, a lot of emotional work that you have to do. And then the skill set that you're developing, because you're still developing. Remember, I'm an outsider. I have no idea about human capital. Hence why we met in a school when I was trying to do a diploma in human resource.
Postgraduate diploma.
Yes, postgraduate diploma.
Very important.
To also understand the world of human resource, and then getting mentored by so many professionals in this. In fact, I say I am a child of the village. I have so many mentors in the human resource space who've helped me understand how things work and how we then can support organizations. So that's the transition.
That's a transition. 6 years into earning the authority to speak in that space.
Right, yes.
And I'm glad that you went back to school and built the capacity to do that, because that is important.
Yes.
Before we dive into the psychometric world and emotional intelligence, tell us about running a business. Because that's a whole other skill set. It's one thing to understand the technicalities of psychometrics, is another thing to run a business.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, even running one business is a whole skill set to running another business.
Yeah.
And the place of competencies cannot be like understated.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I've run this business called Tarakibu Architects, and I've been here, so I'm a seasoned businesswoman. Never mind that I had done 2 other businesses in there that had failed nice. You retreat back to your corner and
you wonder, what did I get myself into?
Yes, We tried to start an interior design supplies company Didn't work out. And a friend of mine started an electrical shop. At some point, I realized, it's not working out. So entrepreneurs are burnt like every single day.
Yeah, true.
And I remember one time sitting with a lady, and she says, I know where entrepreneurs go wrong. I was like, what do you mean? You guys just don't know how to manage yourselves. But you can't, in the mind of an entrepreneur, there's possibility. And until until you try, you're like, I don't know why that's sometimes the way we were wired, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
So we tend also to push ourselves sometimes to the very limit, which is why even if you have a stable business, sometimes you find yourself in interesting waters. Like, for example, the macroeconomics of the country play a big role. Trends, you're subject to so many other things internally, your own people who you're working with. Business requires knowledge, and you have to equip yourself constantly with knowledge of what you're doing, knowledge of who your clients. You're constantly learning. In fact, if you're not constantly learning in business, I don't think you're going to go.
You'll not be in business long enough.
You will not. It requires resilience. Like significant amounts of resilience. And believe it or not, the physical activity that you do helps build that resilience. I like defining resilience as not the ability to take on so much. Resilience is building your internal capacity, because the world will hit you.
The inner man.
The world will hit you. And and you have to get up. So you're hit, you have to get up. But if you don't continuously build capacity internally, like a habit, every day, what are you putting to build that bandwidth? And your bandwidth is not growing, then you're not going to be resilient, because if it's this much, then you're hit. You can only take so much. So you're constantly trying also to grow your resilience, your financial resilience, your interpersonal resilience by building relationships that matter, because you need those, like, when times are hard, you'll find us in a corner there, all of us. In the world we are there, we have suits and everything. You
have it all together.
There's like a place in a corner where just there, like,
you can cry.
Yes, that's interpersonal resilience, relationships that help. You can talk these things, feel no judgment. And then emotional resilience, being in touch with what you're feeling, being aware of how that's going to impact what your decisions will be for the business, and so on and so forth. So resilience is a big one. Spiritual, whatever that may be for you, anchoring back into purpose, and really defining that and understanding that is so important. So
we need to stop just waking up and saying, I'm starting a business.
No.
You need to sit with yourself and just check a few things.
Let me tell you, at 3 a.m. you wake up, your problems are all there. They're looking at you nicely.
Especially end month. And end month is approaching.
They're there. They're looking at you nicely. You're looking at them back. So every single day, you're waking up to center yourself. Because if you don't center yourself, you carry all that anxiety into everywhere you're going and everything. So your morning ritual is important. Some of these things that we're not taught, you learn. My morning ritual is important. It centers me back to purpose. It centers me back to productivity. Even during the day, there are rituals you need during the day to bring you back. Hey, Mazi, you're given some information. You're like, where? The other day I learned the word where.
Now you're getting into the psychometric and emotional intelligence space. So let's get into it. What are psychometric tests or assessments, and why are they important?
They are fundamentally, it's just a questionnaire with a set of questions that ask you a few things about yourself. But they were designed to measure hidden qualities that we cannot see. Intelligence is one of them. So psychometric assessments, nowadays testing, even the exams you do in school are part of a psychometric assessment. When you're interviewing someone, that's a psychometric assessment, because you're asking them questions to try and see who are they, how do they behave, what do they value. That's part of a psychometric assessment, so to speak. So these are instruments that are now defined to give you a more accurate definition or information about individuals. And they span from personality assessments. I think those are the ones that are most
popular.
Yes, personalities, cognitive, guys know numerical, verbal, things like that. Motivation. So like I was saying, people is one of my interests. So we all have innate interests in arts. And you can check, and I can tell you, for mine, it's being entrepreneurial, enterprising rather. People is another one, by big interest and creativity. Those three. Technical follows fourth.
When we have to do it, you can hire people for that.
Technical, yeah. But if you look at my personality assessment, because all these are different, so that was my interest. But if I look at my personality assessment, it tells me about my preferred behavior. So it's not about internally, like maybe my values. Personalities measure your preferred behavior. So if something happens to me, you and I are going to react differently because you have already a preferred way that you react to situations.
To respond.
I have my preferred way, and we've learned it over time.
Yeah.
So someone could shout over here, your preferred way is to fold your hands and look at them. Yeah. Doesn't mean you can't shout back, but that's your preferred way. Someone could shout, and me, I'm like, why the hell are you shouting? You know, I start engaging. Yeah. That's just my preferred way and my preferred behavior. So personality assessments, they inform us in an objective way, in a language that we can understand what those behaviors are and why they are there.
And why they're there.
there.
So psychometric tests are not just personality tests. Personality test is one of the psychometric tests. There's cognitive, you say there's motivation, there are quite a number of them.
There are very many.
Why are they important? They're strategic.
Yes.
Why are they important in a business setting or in a workplace, especially when you're speaking to a HR professional?
Yeah.
Because you said interviewing is also one of them.
It is.
So how can I use this assessment to ensure that I am attracting, selecting, and retaining the best talent for my business?
Okay. So whenever guys ask, let me say about 80% of our requests, when guys ask for psychometric assessments, they actually mean either personality or cognitive. But I think the bigger issue is understanding what psychometric assessments are and what they can do for you. So I found there is a disconnect between the why. And we all know from Simon Sinek, if the why is not there, then the return on investment on anything that you do is you can't
disengagement.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the psychometric assessments are important if you also know what you want from your people. So one example I give, whenever guys come to tell us to do psychometric assessments, there's one thing they say in the JD: highly decisive individuals. That one is like almost a guarantee.
Yes.
Team player is another one, almost a guarantee. So even the way you describe the role sometimes is not clear. So when you come and you say, I want a highly decisive individual, I will show you the skill. And I say, this is a skill for highly decisive individuals. But you must also understand that a person who makes decisions quickly also takes risks. So the question here is, are you willing to take the risk associated with a
quick decision maker?
Yeah, because this other person, it's not like they don't make decisions. It's just that they're more deliberate. They possibly take time to consider many things, and that's the whole scale. So you see, that starts clarifying for you, okay, what do I really mean when I say highly decisive? So a psychometric, when you decide to do psychometric assessment, it also clarifies to you why. So they are important in that when you're clear on the role, the assessment can help you determine how well does that person fit a role. And even if there are certain elements, because you can't get 100%, that are not fit for the role, they give you, by the way, a very good plan on how you're going to onboard this person, how you're going to prepare them better to take up the role and build their capacity for them to be successful. That is like for one person in one role. And you can already see the return on investment on just that one assessment is significant. In fact, they say that training and onboarding using psychometrics has a much higher ROI than when you just get someone in there. And if you then equip the line managers, they're also able to mentor and coach using the psychometric assessment. That's just one area. Another area which is underutilized but is really growing globally is getting that data out of psychometric assessments. If you have a habit of carrying out assessments in your organizations, you actually start seeing who is the one surviving in this organization and who are the people who are not surviving.
Predictive analytics.
Exactly.
To make decisions.
Exactly. And that means that when you're then now carrying out psychometrics for other people, then you're using that data to determine which person is a fit for our culture. Yeah, not only for the role, but a fit for our culture. What things are actually non-negotiables for us?
Yeah.
So if this person doesn't fall within this particular category, we can't hire
hire
them because we know you're going to last here 3 months and you're going to disappear.
Because you have data you have collected over time that tells you that.
And that is why getting a psychometric provider, you don't need many. You need 1 or 2 providers who you continuously collect data with. So what I found is we're hiring for this role, we call for this psychometrics. We're hiring for the next role, another tender we call. And yes, you can collate that data, but it's easier when you have one place where you're all looking at the data. You're saying, okay, it looks like for us, mathematics at this level is essential because all the guys who really
stayed on or done well have these skills.
So you start developing that ability to predict better the kind of person who fits. You also start having that ability to predict what is required in a team. So you look at your team, certain qualities are there, there's one missing. So when you're hiring, you're also looking to see how can we get someone who has this particular quality to come and complement the team. So in the world
let me
of
stop
data,
you there. We might be losing people. It sounds very technical now. So are these solutions available in the market that you can just engage somebody and they do it for you? Because someone may be thinking, this is not my area of expertise. We're talking about data, analytics. Well, it's an important skill to have. It may not be your specialty. So what solutions are in the market so that we don't scare people off?
For example, for us, we run a psychometric assessment center. We've done it for the last since Profiles was born. In fact, that's how Profiles was born. It was first an assessment provider, psychometric assessment provider. I know there are 2, 3 other companies that offer psychometric assessments. What I feel is that if you really want to utilize psychometric assessments, look for an organization that deals with them in depth. Because yes, I get it. We all have to have a box of tricks in our arsenal. And we might be offering psychometric assessment. So if you're thinking about the long-term benefits of a psychometric assessment, you will find there are 2 or 3 companies in Kenya, by the way, that have psychometric assessments as an anchor. And they can give you this the benefit that I'm talking about. I also think, because you see, even when we're in school with you, psychometrics was like a
something mnapitia tu.
They're there, they help people finish.
You can use them as a tool. Period.
And in the age that we're moving into, psychometrics are becoming really important. So how about you just also attend a course? Takes you about 6 weeks, understanding psychometrics. Really know what they are, how they're made, how to tell a good one from a non-good one. Let me tell you just one technical thing about the validity of an assessment, because there are very many things that make an assessment reliable and we say kosher to use and, like they say, defendable. One thing is using a psychometric assessment for the purposes that it was meant to be used. That invalidates a psychometric assessment before even you've checked the data. What do I mean? Taking a personality assessment and using it for recruitment. If you look at the research and the data for that personality assessment, they'll even tell you this assessment was not created as a recruitment tool, yet you've used it as a recruitment tool, and now you're trying to infer data and say, but we know what we're looking for already. Before we even check this, whether this comes from a reputable provider, yes, it was wrong. And so you'll find these mistakes are very, very common. And it's just because people don't have the information. So that's why I say get onto a course, understand psychometrics. Every single initiative has its own psychometric assessment. 360s are psychometric assessments. They're really good for development. I could go on and go on and go on.
Get an expert to support you so that you can make the right choice for the tool that you need for your business.
In fact, why don't you just get a psychometric consultant to sit with you as you decide through what your psychometric requirements will be. Let them be able to give you the lay of the land. Then after that, now you can go out and look for your assessments.
Alternatively, go to school and study and learn how to do it.
But then let me tell you, the world of psychometric assessments is huge. It is so big. It's right now I'm doing a course with the British Psychology Society. It is huge. It is. So get enough to support yourself. That's what a short course does. Then work with a consultant. All right.
You said you started off as psychometric assessment centers, Profiles International. Then you've brought on board learning and development, especially on an online platform. You have brought on board emotional intelligence. What is the relationship between all these elements? Why are you bringing them together? And this is HR purely.
Yes.
This is what HRs
Human
do.
resource development.
Yes, human resource development and
Yes.
management.
Yeah.
So as you bring the link between these elements, then also bring the HR on board. Why do you need to see this link in your business?
We got into emotional intelligence because for me, psychometric assessments raise self-awareness. And so there was that question around what is self-awareness. And then the second thing was that looking at the trends, the global trends about upskilling for the future of work, EI featured quite prominently. So we decided, let's find out what this EI is. And again, from a psychometric assessment
point of view. Yeah.
So once we were able to establish we can measure for EI and we can offer assessments EI, then what? So it only follows that then you have to be able to train for EI and support organizations train for EI. So they are not removed because our methodology has always been like, let's first assess you. Once we assess, then let's see what we need to do after that.
Yeah.
So training and development the learning and development arm was necessary to support like the findings we were finding. And we've worked with quite a few organizations, especially in the area of EI, to support especially culture.
Yeah.
Because the competencies that fall under EI, you find they really speak to some of the things that now companies are trying to do, which is largely humanize. They say we want to humanize our workforce, our culture. Yes, the place for compliance and push is
becoming slimmer.
It is slimmer. It is, and if leaders are not being able to embody these skills and do them well and learn them, then you find that mass exits, quiet quitting, people not really being mentored enough to be productive, and all these things are as a result of not learning like the new style of leadership.
All right.
Yeah.
So what is emotional intelligence? You just said EI and others will call it EQ. Yes. I don't know why we use the I as opposed to the Q. But what is emotional intelligence? And especially when you say for you to thrive in this workplace now, which has really changed. Why is it important?
So EI is the skill of being aware of our emotions. In fact, it is called emotional intelligence. So
literally,
like they didn't call it anything else.
Yeah.
So being aware of your emotions, your moods and emotions, so being aware of other people's moods and emotions, being able to work with these emotions, to reason with these emotions, to manage these emotions, both in myself and in other people.
Yeah.
So maybe in myself, the skill is not too bad, but when I start thinking about other people, for example, if I have a team, how do I maintain that mood positively so that then when they come to work, despite every other problems that are coming in, the matatus, everything, they find an environment that they actually want to work.
Yeah.
So as a leader, your mood is infectious. The way that you show up to work is infectious. If you scream today, there's a way we'll behave.
Yes.
If you speak words of affirmation to us, there's a way we behave. So we have not always had these tools. We've not always been taught. And I think it's something that we can learn. And that's why emotional intelligence was coined as not, it's not a social thing. It's actually a mental ability. The ability to choose one emotion over another, the ability to be aware of others is something that you can continuously develop.
Somebody will listen to you and think we are telling leaders and HR leaders especially to be all smile and to be nice and not to hold people to account.
Yes.
And yet this is a workplace and it has its structures.
Yeah.
So how do you strike the balance between humanizing, between being aware of your emotions and how you come across and manage people, and also holding people to account because there is work that needs to get done?
Yeah. I wrote an article, I think it was in the Ihrm magazine, about the myths of EI. One of those myths is that thing of being nice.
Being all smiles.
And being all
smiles. You are
smiles.
the mother of the
That
company and the father of the organization.
That is a myth. That people high in EI are nice and they don't hold people accountable. People high in EI have actually been called assertive. They know where the boundaries are. Part of EI is through the lens of fairness. That's why there is policy and there's process. And being clear on that. The problem comes when you're not clear. Some people, you allow them to cross this border. So having that clarity, having the psychological safety within yourself to be able to call out BS. to be able to tell someone, listen, this is the way that things need to work,
done,
or you're not meeting this and this.
Expectation.
Having the finesse to express difficult conversations in a manner that does not leave the other person feeling belittled, but points to the work that they're doing. So we're like, let's look at these results. What do you think?
Yeah. Focusing on the facts.
Yes, these are the results. So I'm not telling you, now look at you, now look at what, I mean, I can never understand you. You're always, every time you show up, there's nothing you're doing, then I'm attacking you. But I'm like,
not the issue.
Yes, look at the results. What do you think about these results? What do you think about the results of why do you think your peers are performing more than you? What's the difference? I'm holding you to account. And there's one thing about being devoted to people, which is a component of EI. When you're devoted to people, you actually hold them to their best. You don't let them slack. Slacking is not love. If I let you just live the way you want, I mean, your children, do you ever let them just get away with
anything?
You don't. Yeah. So I hold you to account to the highest level that you can, and that's why I continuously want more from you. But you see, as a leader, if I'm not investing myself in first also understanding you, listening to you, I cannot even tell what your potential could be. So that I can tell you, no, I don't, Irene, I don't think so. I think you're not putting effort here, and you could be here. So what am I doing? I'm showing you where you could be. What am I also doing? I'm challenging you. I'm not breaking you, but I'm challenging you. So leaders high in EI, they hold you accountable. They push your boundaries. They know how to communicate to you.
Oh, you can say that again.
Of course, they have to facilitate difficult conversations. Yes. And they're aware of themselves, so they're aware of the emotional stuff that they bring. For example, if I know I'm having a difficult conversation with you, I just won't leave another meeting and then sit here and pull the papers and say, come in. Give me the time. I will sit down, give myself the time. I possibly have developed a framework that I use, which gives me a better chance of success than just winging it. And I take you through that, possibly based on coaching, to discuss this difficult performance conversation. And by the end of this all, it could be an ownership that is joint. This is what you're coming to. This is what you're promising for you. Not that I'm there telling you, you're going to be doing this. Yeah.
It sounds like there is an even higher expectation on the leader. Because for you to have the authority and also the, to build that trust for you to hold me to account to that level.
Yes.
You also need to be conducting yourself in a certain way.
Yes.
You cannot preach water and drink wine.
You can't.
So what do you do as a leader? Before you even get into managing people and holding them to account, what do I need to do?
You need to develop self-awareness. And this self-awareness is, now a friend of mine called Sama Yuru says, it's self-awareness with responsibility.
With responsibility.
Yes, because it's all well to say, I'm aware that when I get angry, I speak these words. I'm aware that
using it as an excuse.
Yeah, as an excuse. When I get angry, when you see me, I put that red, then don't come near me, that. But the self-awareness is understanding my impact on other people. Is it the desired impact? So sometimes guys will say, when the room gets heated, I just fold my arms and I sit in a corner and I don't engage. Yeah. So, and then now you wonder why people are not promoting you, because you don't engage. We can't understand you. We don't know what your views are. That's the impact.
You're providing a solution.
Yes, that's it. That's a perception you're folding your arms is giving us. Or someone says, me, and I'm a victim of this, and I used to be like, I can't post on socials, Well, someone told me, but socials are your digital suit. If you don't post on socials,
I don't want to post my photos.
I don't want to post my photos. Or someone says, I don't want to be seen. So there's no prize for not being seen, And if you're looking to grow, then ultimately you have to be seen. And why don't you decide how you want to be seen?
Control the narrative.
Control the narrative. So it's about that impact. The way that I am and who I am, how is it impacting on my team? If I'm a quiet leader, I have to understand what does that mean for my team, so that I know what else I need to do to be able to changamsha them when they need that.
To build the skill to be able to have these conversations, even though it's not my preferred approach.
And you have to keep stretching. And when you stretch, what else do you need? So like we're talking about self-management. You come to work, it stretches you because you have to talk to this one, you have to hold this one. You're constantly using your mind, your emotional energy. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's worse, or rather, it's more difficult than me just going to my computer and typing emails away. And that one is easier.
Yeah.
Back to centering. What are you doing so that at least more often than not, you have the bandwidth, you're ready for the following day and
like
what it brings. Yes, the resilience.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of work for leaders, and not even just leaders, any person who's dealing with people.
Yeah.
Your internal resilience is important because it shows. It shows in your behavior. It shows in the words that you speak. It shows even in the kind of environment that you create. Yeah.
All right. So we have talked about Vicki, the entrepreneur, Vicki, the architect,
Vicki the
teacher, Vicki, the musician.
Yes,
now, let's talk about Vicki, the leader, and especially in the women's space.
Yeah.
You're leading 2 organizations that are dealing with women. Tell us about that, and why did you get into that?
Women in business face a unique set of challenges. Some of them are systemic, some of them are also imposed by ourselves and our belief systems. So going through myself the challenge of owning a business, running a business, growing a business as a woman, and getting so many mentors and coaches, sometimes I even lost count. Made me realize that championing the women in business cause is something that's important to me. So when this opportunity came, I raised up my hand. As usual, you don't know the depths you're going to get into. You're just like, okay, I'd like to be.
You show up. Yeah.
Yes, you show up. And what we aim to do is basically because I always say sometimes, even us as women here in an urban setting, we are privileged, I think. And there's so much traction we have gained and so much we've done. But there are very many women out there who are still struggling, not even with the systemic issues, but with the internal issues about getting the courage, getting the confidence, really being able to say, you know what, I can do this. I can do this. Yeah. So the network is about establishing a network of women that can mentor others. We are working with organizations to also see how can we provide affordable cash. Now, that one is normally funding, very tricky because there's nothing like access to funds. Let me tell you, I've been in this space the last few years and I've told myself, this thing, access to funds, is tricky. You'll get grants, yes, the grants end. You'll get loans. The loans at certain interest, they're not available to everyone. But the mainstream ways of getting money is really, really, I don't know, it's like damning. First and foremost, you need titles or collateral that you don't have as a woman. And even maybe if you have, they're owned by your husband or so on, or you jointly own them, and then they're going to ask you, so why are you putting up our stuff here for this business? Yes, yeah. A lot of the women, when they start, just like all of us, the books are in your M-Pesa.
You're the accountant,
you're everything. So capacity building for women to understand, why do I need to keep financials? Why do I need to have digital marketing? One of the studies now that is coming through is that I think for Africa, the biggest business is going to be done online digitally. E-commerce, yes, and we have a lot of fintechs that allow us to pay money from here to wherever. We have a lot of digital startups that are creating ecosystems where you can do business. So teaching women that the digital space is somewhere you have to be. How do you do it? How do you get other people to help you? The skill, there's a lot. There's so much to work to be done. Capacity building, conversations around access to finance, creating networks. So for example, like for the Commercial Federation for Women in Business, what they try to do is link women with the region. So we have a trade fair in every single country. We have chapters where, for example, let me give you a very simple example, but I give it all the time because it shocked me. We had women from Malawi coming in and bringing groundnuts. They don't know the lay of the land in Kenya. So what do? The chair from Malawi calls the chair from Kenya. So Vicki, I have these women, they have groundnuts. I call someone and they tell me, just take them to Nyamakema. It's for us, it's a very simple thing. They go to Nyamakema.
It's all gone.
It's all gone, and now they have contacts and they can actually
supply
without us guys being there. So that's the kind of linkages. We have another woman who was in Tunisia who wanted spices from Madagascar. one call, phone call, and everything. It's a trusted place for you to get business information. So it's about creating those linkages. I know a lot of seasoned business women also and men are looking to get out of Kenya and export further. So that's what we're trying to do.
So how can people plug in? People who are into entrepreneurship, they're already running businesses, or they are planning. Remember, we said you need to plan. They are planning, so they need to not repeat the mistakes that others have made. They need these linkages. They need to know what skills they need. So how do they plug into both FOWEC and the COMESA one?
So FOWEC is the local body for COMESA, for the COMESA Federation of Women. We're on LinkedIn, FOWEC, Federation of Women Entrepreneurs in Kenya. You can actually message us from there. I'm on LinkedIn, Vicki Karoga. You can message me and I'll connect you. We have an email. It's secretariat@fowec.org, which you can also write to. But if you type FOWEC on Google, no, I said digital, you actually get us. And it will give you an opportunity to sit with like-minded women. One of the things, by the way, I value a lot in my entrepreneurship journey has been women who have held my hand. Because you find that a lot of the times you have the resources around you, you just don't see it. Or there are many ways of killing a cat, but you just don't see it. So the minute you sit in a room and you listen to other women and you ask what you think is a silly question, you'll find like 10 answers. And that kind of
find the solutions that you are looking for.
And things. And you feel that you're not alone. Those conversations are so essential for women in business. And if you're also trying to run a consultancy, it's not an easy while running a consultancy or a service business. Because, hey, that one now, like goods, sometimes the thing about running goods is that you have to have stock. So that's where your problems are. Services is about getting the work and being able to, those cycles of payment. That's what
they're quite a challenge.
They're quite a challenge.
All right. Yeah. If there's something I've observed interacting with you is you never shy away from asking. You're very persisant. If someone says no, you will just look for another way to come and ask again until you get it done. How do you learn how to do that?
I have a friend of mine who says the only thing that happens when you ask is that you get a yes or a no. And most of the time the no is not no. Most of the time the no is
not now. Maybe.
Not now. Have you tried this? Do you do this and everything? So I think I don't ask. So this is new to you. This is new to me. Oh my goodness. I'm like, gosh, I should ask more. I should be asking more. I think I pursue. So if I want something, I feel like I kind of streamline and say, I'm going to try and get it.
This is the focus.
So I'm going to try and get, so I may think, so in my mind, I'm like, hey, I'm not asking enough. That's why I'm not getting. Maybe that's why I'm asking. Because I'm thinking I'm not doing enough asking.
All right. So it's being intentional as well.
It's being intentional. We had Flora Motahi. She came and spoke to the women in business. I think it was November last year. And one of the things she said is that sales is a science. It's not about just going and speaking to people. It's a science. Nice. It's a methodology. It's a framework. And this year, intentionally, I said, you know what I want to do? One of the things I'm not really good at is picking the phone and calling people. So, I can have a conversation with you anytime, one-on-one. But if you check my personality, I am actually highly introverted. So it's difficult for me to just pick up conversations and do what we call small talk with people. So it has meant introspecting back and thinking, how can I make these connections more frequent in a way that is also comfortable for me? So one of my habits is here. So every year I don't have bucket lists. I pick a habit that I want to grow for that year. And it's been like that for like the last 12 years. So my habit this year is picking up the phone and calling someone and getting that habit of calling people. And that's right there is strengthening your contacts, creating better relationships with the people around you, even your clients, even your own personal relationships. So I've told myself at the end of the month, my airtime never used to finish. My airtime should have I should be asking for more airtime.
I think I need to take up that challenge as well.
Yeah, because you find it's so easy. And then,
so you're not just calling people when you need something.
Yes.
It's very awkward.
And then not only that, you would think that if you don't call people in business, it's not the same as personal. I checked. Even my personal life, I only call my brothers due when we are going somewhere. By the way, hiyo kitu iko wapi? Mlisema tunapatana wapi? So it transcends your whole life. So you can't call and say, I'm going to call only for. So it's actually, my calls are to everyone. And I think even someone told me the other day, Vicki mpaka una respond for WhatsApp siku hizi. Because even me WhatsApp, I used to look at it, I'm like, gosh, this thing called WhatsApp, it's draining on you. But it's just, I think, deciding that it is important. And it is important, yes, and it has to be done. So that's the habit I'm developing this year.
So this emotional intelligence business cuts across. It cuts across your workplace, your personal life, your other relationships, and it shows up in all elements.
You are you.
Yeah.
The way you are, the way you show up is as a result of you. It's as a result of the values you hold. Which do you know them, by the way? Have you reviewed them lately?
You might not be aware of who you are.
Now let me tell you about my journey through leadership. Has been an introspection around my values.
Yeah.
Because we show up and we say, I go to class and I tell guys, so what are your values? I know my values. What are they? Let me tell you one value that shows up. Integrity. Family. And I'm not laughing at people. I'm also laughing at myself. And doing the work of really discovering what are your true values, because your values drive you, whether you know it
or not,
or you don't know it. And sometimes we hold values that we aspire to have and think they're our values.
And they're not.
And
they're nice to have.
Every day you're being driven by your true values. So do you know what those are, or your principles and your beliefs? You are making decisions based on your value system, whether you know it or not.
So it's better to figure it out.
And it's a lot of work. I remember I saw Mary was in another, she's one of my mentors. I think you're going to feature her.
Yes.
And she gave me a list of I think there were 300 values. And I had to bring them down to 5.
The most important one.
Yes. It was a lot of soul searching. Your values show up in even the way you live your life. For example, one of the values I had to bring down, because I used to say family was my value, was family. Because when I looked at my life, I spend money. I work more than. So how can I say one of my values is family
and there's someone at home?
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
And so what value is that was more important, that drives me to go to the workplace, that drives me to carry out the things that I do? It was a very important conversation to have.
Yeah.
And then what value then drives the other things that I do? Is it commitment to the work that I do, or is it discipline? Those are questions you ask yourself, because it shows up.
Yeah.
Are you committed, or do you tell yourself, I'm going to discipline myself to do this? So it's you haven't done that work,
it's not for the faint of
no, you have to do it.
Yeah, true.
If you're a growing professional, whatever you're doing, that is one area that you have to do rigorous work.
All right. Yeah. As we bring this to a close, you just mentioned family.
Yes.
And I haven't asked you about your family. I know you have children, some are almost adults. Yes. And all that. So it's interesting for actually women to admit that I am a mother, I am a wife, I run a home, but in my values, work is ranking higher than. We might get stoned. Is ranking higher than family. So what's that like? How have you managed your family?
When they were younger, I spent a lot of time with them. And in fact, primarily the reason why I got into business is because I wanted the time. I wanted to have the fluidity to spend time with the kids as they were growing up. But yes, there's even sometimes my kids were like, "Hey, mommy, we don't even see you. You learned today,
then tomorrow."
Before we wake up, you're off. And it hasn't been easy. And I don't think there's ever any way to say, I've never met a woman who said they didn't feel, gosh, at times I feel so guilty about wanting what I want to do. And then, of course, not sometimes having adequate time, missing some of the important events. But it's just, again, the intention, setting these things, having quality and quantity time. So when I'm home, we try and really be together.
Pack everything together.
But quantity also is important. It's not just the quality. So Saturdays, Sundays, trying to be with them. Now they're old. My firstborn is 25.
Wow.
My second is 21. He's turning 21. My third is, then I have two. I call my twins 16 and 14. I'm almost an empty nester.
Yes.
So now
that's another set of challenges coming.
Yes. So I think it's difficult to set the challenge. I think every day you try, because they're in your radar, you understand. You know, the other thing is when you understand what you are doing, then you can see the gaps you have. So you try and invest time the way that you can. You try, like, I remember that times I would just carry them. We go for Naivasha if I have a car assignment that I'm doing, and I'm like, we are all going together because so I think it's that, but it's not easy. The guilt is there. Even sometimes they're like, oh my God, no, okay, fine. Am I being punished for wanting something? So I think you just also sit with career moms, because when I used to sit with my aunties and my and a lot of them, the narrative would be different. Why are you doing this? No good mother does this thing. So I'd end up feeling even more guilty. I'd be like, it's not that you should be living your life. You should be at home with your children. But the minute I discovered other mothers who also want to pursue their careers, oh my God, now at least we're together.
You look for the tricks,
I'm like, gosh. And then you also look for older women and you look at how their kids have turned out. Like, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe there's something we can do this.
All right. Thank you, Vicki. It has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for making the time to be here. Parting shot, especially for HR professionals, as we bring this to an end.
Okay. I know this is a cliche that you can do most of what you are meant to do, but I truly believe that even as a HR professional, the power of learning from the community and really focusing on human development, I think you do great work for the nation. So do it to your all wherever you are, with whatever resources you have. I think it is also CSR to the nation. Wherever people who are well-developed, well-rounded, confident, courageous go, they do better work. And maybe the Kenya from 30 years will be
better for it.
Will be significantly different, So we have a big role to play in shaping the talent and the people that will be leading us tomorrow.
All right. That's a good way to end it. Yes. Thank you so much. That is Vicki Karoga, the MD Profiles International, speaking to us about her journey, about psychometric assessments, about emotional intelligence. So if you want to learn about that, about women in leadership and entrepreneurship, you can follow us on our social media platforms at Ihrm Kenya. Also follow her, Vicki Karoga, on LinkedIn for more connection. And we thank you for taking the time to join us on Ripple by Ihrm. Until next time, I have been your host, Ihrm Kimashia.
doing the work of really discovering what are your true values, because your values drive you, whether you know it
Or not.
or you don't know it. And sometimes we hold values that we aspire to have and think they're our values.
And they're not.
And
They are
not.
nice to have.
Every day you're being driven by your true values. So do you know what those are, or your principles and your beliefs? You are making decisions based on your value system, whether you know it or not. People high in EI have actually been called assertive. They know where the boundaries are. Part of EI is through the lens of fairness. That's why there is policy and there's process. Having the finesse to express difficult conversations in a manner that does not leave the other person feeling belittled, but points to the work that they're doing. So we're like, let's look at these results. What do you think?
Yeah. Focusing on the facts.
Yes. For example, if I have a team, how do I maintain that mood positively so that then when they come to work, despite every other problems that are coming in, the matatus, the what, everything, they find an environment that they actually want to work.
Yeah.
So as a leader, your mood is infectious.